On a cold January night in 1974, a 20-year-old student stepped out of a birthday party in Bristol to get some fresh air. She was gone for a matter of minutes. When they found her, she was less than 400 meters from the front door. And 50 years later, no one has ever answered for what happened to Glenis Carruthers. This is the Cordon. Tonight, we're not just telling the story. We're walking through the investigation itself. What the police did, what they found, and where half a century on, this case still might break open. Glenis Carruthers was 20 years old, a trainee teacher from the Midlands, described by everyone who knew her as quiet, kind, and utterly without enemies. On Saturday the 26th of January 1974, she traveled to Bristol for a friend's 21st birthday party in Clifton, one of the city's most elegant districts, all Georgian terraces and gaslight yellow street lamps. At some point during the evening, the room grew warm and crowded, and Glenis did something completely ordinary. She stepped outside to cool off. She didn't take her coat. She didn't say goodbye. She clearly intended to come straight back. She never did. A short time later, her body was discovered near the entrance to Bristol Zoo on Clifton Down, only a few minutes' walk from the party. She had been strangled. There was no robbery, no indication she had gone willingly with anyone. Whatever happened happened fast, in the open, on a residential street on a Saturday night. Now, the investigation. And this is where the case becomes genuinely remarkable. Avon and Somerset Police launched one of the largest inquiries the force had ever mounted. Detectives took thousands of statements. They traced and interviewed the party guests, one by one, and eliminated them. They door-knocked the whole of Clifton. They appealed to bus passengers, taxi drivers, dog walkers, anyone who had crossed the downs that night. And here's the detail that has haunted detectives ever since. The timeline is brutally tight. Glenis stepped out, and within a window investigators measured in minutes, she was dead. That tells you something. Either her killer was already outside, waiting, watching the lit windows of the party, or he crossed paths with her by pure terrible chance. A stranger attack in 1974 was the hardest kind of case to solve. No CCTV, no mobile phones, no DNA databases. The inquiry generated a mountain of paper, index cards, statements, tip-offs, and every lead was run down by hand. Detectives looked at men with histories of attacks on women in the area. They looked at whether Glenis could have been mistaken for someone else. They looked at whether the killer had a connection to the zoo, to the downs, to the party itself. Nothing held. The file never closed, but the trail went cold. In the decades since, the case has been formally reviewed by cold case teams, and exhibits preserved from 1974 have been re-examined with techniques that simply did not exist when Glenis died. Forensic reviews of historic material have transformed cases of this era before, and detectives have said publicly that cases like this one are never closed and never forgotten. Which brings us to the most unsettling thought of all. If Glenis's killer was a local man in his 20s or 30s in 1974, he could still be alive today, in his 70s or 80s. Someone may have wondered about him for 50 years. A wife, a sister, a grown-up child. Cases this old are rarely solved by detectives alone. They're solved when someone who has carried a suspicion for decades finally decides to speak. Glenis Carruthers was 20 years old. She had her whole career ahead of her. She stepped outside for fresh air at a friend's birthday party. The smallest, most ordinary decision. And she never got to walk back through that door. If you were in Clifton that night, or if you've ever heard something, a comment, a confession, a name, Avon and Somerset Police still want to hear from you. It is never too late. If you believe cases like this deserve to stay in the light, subscribe to the Cordon and turn on notifications. Every case we cover is someone's daughter, someone's friend, and someone somewhere still knows the truth. Thank you for watching, and Glenis, you are not forgotten.